Yeah. Welcome back to the Pit Stop Ranch. This video, we're going to be mocking up our flathead that we want to take racing. Now, some of the stuff is going on for the final time. Hopefully we won't have to take it off. Some stuff is only getting put on here temporarily because we're still waiting for the proper fasteners, or we suspect there might be a reason to take it off again, so it's getting put on. Now, one of the big reasons is, I don't know if any of you've noticed, but the work environment here isn't the cleanest. And so I wanted to button it up as much as I can to minimize how much corruption can end up inside a very expensive race engine. And a very big thing that we're doing this episode is we're going through a couple original distributors, and from two, putting the best parts together onto one. Here's a dual points distributor that came with one of these engines, and we go ahead and go through and go from something that's completely seized to something that spins freely and should work. Now, it said the points currently on here are came with it and are of questionable value, and the wiring as well is a little bit rough. So these items will need to go ahead, and I'll have to blow this thing apart again and replace that stuff when those parts arrived. But as with the case of all this other stuff, if it's assembled, there's a lot less chance of it getting damaged. And if it's going to get lost, it's because all of it's lost. And when it's in a big chunk, that's a challenge. So that's this video, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, I'm gonna go and toss the water pumps on. Went ahead and picked up some stainless steel hardware because one, they go into the water jackets, and two, they're no, don't, but and two, there's one that actually goes inside the out on the bottom here, so on one on each side. So going on that. Okay, first up, what we want to do is go ahead and scrape the gasket surface where it is going to be against the engine block. I put a pretty heavy coat of paint on, so there were some runs and stuff, so I want to get that off so I get a good surface. And then the next thing I did is used some Permatex Ultra Black RTV, which, you know, there's a lot of opinions about using, but in this case here, I'm using it to just glue the gasket on. So very, very thin layer to get in there and use it. You don't want it to squish back into any of the passages, so it's one of the big problems that most noobs have with it. The other thing too is all of these bolts are going into the water jacket, so you need to put some thread sealer on there. Now they make some specific thread sealer compounds you can use. I just went ahead and put a dab of RTV on the threads and put them on. I have found that has worked for me. Now, professional engine builders who do this for a living and need their stuff to pass a warranty period, they will use a different, very specific item for each step. And that is the correct way of doing it. Of course, we've been fabricating in close proximity to this, and I've kept it as much as I can inside the plastic bag. However, I do have legitimate concerns about crap getting into oil galleries or getting into the bearings. And I'm doing everything I can think of to protect it and prevent that. So, we are waiting on a bunch of things to arrive that are back ordered. One of the big things we're waiting on is the head bolts, head studs. And I really want to get this thing buttoned up so that no more shit gets in here. So we're going to clean these out real good and then oil them good, and then we're going to gently put the heads on. We're going to put the head gaskets down, and then we're going to put the heads on and put 4 bolts per end up finger tight, just to keep the crud and crap in my immaculate workspace from contaminating this engine any longer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, what I've done is I did it, wiped them all, wiped all the cylinders out the best I can, rotated at 180, did it again, just rotated at 90, did it again, rotated another 180, do it again. Now we don't want these cylinders dry. We want to clean the existing oils and so forth out of them, because they have suspended particulates from my fabrication close by, and they're just the general dust that exists in this region. Because I keep pulling this out and there isn't an abundance of crud on it, that tells me that H&H did a really good job before assembling this of cleaning out the bores of all the machine dust and everything from the machining process, which is what you would expect from a machine shop. It's exactly what they need to do. However, if you ever get an engine back fresh from a machine shop, you want to use a solvent of your choice to hose down every cylinder, and then you want to wipe it until you can stick a rag in there, wipe the cylinder walls, and pull them out clean. Because in the micro scratches from the honing process, which create a pocket for oil, just the correct amount of oil to be suspended in there to lubricate the rings, those will be packed full of the filings and the honing stone material. So you want to make sure all of that's cleaned out of everywhere all the time. Okay, this is the best gasket, carbon composite head gasket for an 8BA. And we have our Navarro heads. Both of these are actually made here in Southern California. Just like with the heads, there's a right and a left. And that one goes there, and this one goes here. Again, I am not torquing these down. I'm not crushing the head gasket at all. I do not have the proper head studs, which they're on back order. So I got some grade 5 standard hardware bolts. These are absolutely unacceptable for this. I just don't have the alternative, the proper. So we're not torquing these. These are going on hand tight. Outside. Okay, on the intake manifold, grade 5 bolts are perfectly fine. I picked up some grade 5 hardware for it, but I've only got 4. Now they had sufficient number. They had the 12 that's needed to bolt this down, but I am hesitating at the moment on doing that. I am contemplating whether I want to use other hardware, whether I want to go stainless, which is unnecessary because none of this is into a water jacket, unlike the water pumps or even the head bolts, or running something like flange head. So because I am unsure of that, I am going to do the same as I did with the heads and just put in 4 grade 5 bolts, right length, and to secure the intake manifold on, so that this is more or less sealed and I don't have to worry about as much crap and corruption getting into the engine whilst we continue to play with it. Okay, what we have here are some distributors. These 3 came with our 8BAs, and now I'm comparing them, and this one does not match at all. It's the gear's different, everything's different. So we have these 2. This one here is a dual points distributor, which is a high performance, whiz bang, kick ass unit. And this one here isn't. Looks like someone started taking this off and then put this in. Well, this feels locked up. This one's locked up. So we're going to keep playing with these and see what we get, what we figure out. Okay, these have been soaking in acrylic. Now this one here hasn't been, it's fairly complete, still locked up solid, and if you look in here it's pretty crunchy. However, this one here is in better condition. I think it's also partially disassembled already. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and finish. I'm going to leave that one assembled so I have an assembled example. I'm going to take this one apart so I have a disassembled example. And attempt to see how it's constructed and hope I can figure out a way to repair it. Because I fear that any bushings that are in here are completely shot, so I'll have to figure out a bushing situation. Obviously, if we had a lathe, that wouldn't be a problem. I don't have a lathe, so we'll have to figure it out. Okay, to try and protect things, I am knocking the drive gear off with light taps and a brass drift. And then light taps to push the rod on through the housing. The biggest thing, at least on this one, is it is just a little gum. Oh, hell yeah. I think we're in excellent shape. This thing's totally savable. A lot of the grease that was in to protect all the moving parts on the brass was turned to soap. The only thing I'm not sure of is if the vacuum, but everything else totally, I think, is rebuildable, fixable, usable. And the diaphragm is good. That is a huge relief. So everything on this unit is working. Nice. Here I'm using a Scotch-Brite pad on a die grinder to go ahead and clean off the surfaces. Just really light touches to just try and get the years of accumulated varnished up lubricants off. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. With the encouraging results of taking the first one apart, I went ahead and took apart the other one, the one that actually came with the dual points on it. And whereas it had the better plate and the better points on it, the rest of it was a lot rougher and required some finesse to get apart. The actual shaft itself on the end, where I'm tapping on it down there, is actually was mildly mushroomed, and so trying to pull it through the bushings, very decent chance that it opened the tolerances on the bushings a little bit. There is also considerably more corrosion on the shaft itself, a lot of pitting. Now, I don't think this precludes it and makes it so it will not function. It just is not as good as the other housing and the other shaft. Here I'm going ahead and working the plate off, the timing plate with the holds of the points. And here I am doing some light swipes with a sharp file on the tip of the shaft to try and fix the mushrooming. And it did work. And like I said, it's perfectly serviceable. However, it's almost imperceptible, but it's a little bit wiggly. Day later. Now, there are two noticeable differences between the two. This one here actually had the set of old points on it, and they were on these two posts. This one here doesn't have that, and I don't necessarily see, there's no provisions on this plate for these two posts. However, both plates have that. So I'm wondering if this was a single point setup. Yeah, I'm wondering if this was a single point setup that used a pivot here. Well, this was the dual point setup with these pivots here. In which case, without the pin here, it's I won't be able to build this one, which is annoying, because that would be pretty cool. So this dual point setup actually came on this other distributor over here. But it is, since it is in a bit rougher, the shaft is in rougher condition, correct? Yeah, yeah, the shaft is in rougher condition. It's a little bit looser in the bearings, bushings, excuse me. I'm gonna go ahead and put this dual point setup on this one, because the shaft's in better shape and the bushings are a little fit better. The diaphragm rod needs to get into that hole there, and that's what I just did. So next step is to actually secure it on there. We'll get some tools for that. Now there's no mechanical advance in this, so that is an interesting situation. Now you take the spring clip, and if you look in there, there's a groove for this little spring clip that holds this plate down. Keeps the plate from coming off. And then we take our rod, slides right in there thusly. Okay. Now they had a solid, well, it amounts to a rivet, and installed in these, but I've chosen to replace it with a roll pin. Now I went ahead and took what I thought was the best combination of parts and put it onto the one, including the dual point setup, and the cleaned it up really good, lubed it up really good, put a nice coat of oil everywhere it needed to be, and that is the one that I actually am putting on the engine for now. Now the other thing that needed to happen was the timing cover, the shaft in it, there was a little bit of corrosion I wanted to clean up, so just a really light patch of an emery cloth on the die grinder to do that. Okay, we got kind of everything else on, so let's slide this in here and take a look, see how it looks. I've got points on back order. I need to order up the actual cap rotor and the plugs and wires, but ignition's getting there. Well, I hope you enjoy that. Engine is closer to being in one piece. We have a few more things. Like I said, we got some supply chain related issues, and as we figure out what we need as we go along, we order it, and then it takes a little bit longer. The ultimate goal with this engine is to get it running and on the engine run stand. Now we also have two other flatheads that are in different stages of assembly and disassembly that I would like to also go through and do more complete assemblies and finish them out as well. Get them to the point and get them on the engine run stand and get them running. So going forward, if you're here for flathead content, you're going to be getting a lot of it going forward. Also going on in the background is we are moving forward on prepping Jimmy for the next round of primer. That'll probably be a video here in a few weeks as well. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching us playing around with 70-year-old engines. I hope you got something out of us going through this distributor and taking the best parts from two separate, completely solid, frozen lumps of distributors and making one that I believe is 100% serviceable and usable, and the other one which is a few parts missing, a few parts away from being a serviceable distributor. Stay tuned for more as we get this, like I said, we get this thing on the run stand, get the cam broken in, get the carburetors at least idling, and then we're going to send it off to West Tech and get it tuned. And then we'll have solid numbers on its horsepower rating. And if you haven't already and you want to show us some love, hit the like button. And if you haven't done it already, please subscribe. I appreciate your time. Till next time, have a flathead-tastic day.